Open book sister stole my wedding dress. I showed up married to her billionaire ex-fiancé. She thought she ruined my wedding by stealing my dress. She never expected me to walk down the aisle in her billionaire ex-fiancé's arms. When betrayal comes from family, revenge writes itself. This is the story of two sisters torn apart by envy, a stolen wedding dress, and a billionaire fiancé caught between loyalty and desire. From New York's glittering high society to the shadows of family secrets, the stolen dress. The morning sunlight streamed through the pale curtains of the Carter family's New York townhouse, casting soft golden rays across Amelia Carter's bedroom floor. She had woken early, her heart fluttering with excitement, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for her phone. The screen showed the date she had been waiting for her entire life, her wedding day. Amelia had dreamed of this since she was a little girl, pressing lace scraps to her hair and pretending to walk down a grand aisle. She was not a woman of great means, but she had saved every paycheck from her marketing job to afford the perfect dress, a vintage-inspired satin gown, embroidered with delicate pearls, the train long and elegant, but not ostentatious. The gown was not just fabric. It was hope, sacrifice, and dignity stitched into every seam. Her best friend, Lila, had stayed over the night before, helping with last-minute details. The makeup artist was due in an hour. Her bouquet of ivory roses had already been delivered. Amelia's heart hummed with anticipation. She had prayed for this day, for love, for a life where she would no longer be the second Carter sister, constantly overshadowed by Sophie. She rose from bed, her silk robe brushing against her knees, and went to the wardrobe where the dress hung. She imagined herself slipping it on, walking down the aisle where Daniel Miller, her fiancé, would be waiting with that boyish grin of his. She opened the wardrobe. Her breath caught in her throat. The hanger was empty. Her fingers clutched at air, her eyes darting wildly around the wardrobe, the corners of the room, under the bed, in the closet. Nothing. Her gown was gone. No. No. Her voice cracked, echoing in the stillness. Lila, startled by the noise, rushed in from the adjoining guest room. Amelia, what happened? The dress, Amelia gasped, her hands trembling. It's gone. It's not here. They tore through the room together, pulling open drawers, checking garment bags. Nothing. The dress had vanished, as though it had never existed. And then, deep in her chest, Amelia felt it, an old, bitter truth pressing into her lungs. Sophie. Her sister. Her beautiful, cunning, merciless sister. A knock on the door interrupted Amelia's spiraling thoughts. Their mother's voice floated through. Amelia, sweetheart? You should start getting ready. The guests will arrive soon. Amelia swallowed the rising lump in her throat, forcing her voice to remain calm. Mom, where's Sophie? She left early this morning. Didn't say where she was going. Why? Her heart sank. The puzzle pieces fell together with cruel clarity. Sophie had always mocked her for settling for Daniel, sneering at Amelia's plain life. Sophie had once been engaged to a billionaire before her reckless greed ruined the engagement. She despised seeing Amelia happy. And now Sophie had taken the one thing Amelia cherished most on her wedding day, her dress. Tears blurred Amelia's vision as she whispered, she couldn't. But deep down, she knew Sophie could. Sophie always could. Sophie's cruelty. The church bells chimed across Manhattan, announcing what should have been the happiest day of Amelia's life. Guests filled the grand cathedral, their chatter buzzing like bees in spring. White lilies lined the pews, golden light streaming through stained glass. But Amelia stood in the bridal chamber, her heart racing in panic. She had chosen a simple ivory cocktail dress from her closet to avoid complete humiliation, though it was nothing like the gown she had saved for. Her hands clenched the skirt, her breath ragged as Lila tried to comfort her. It's still your day, Lila whispered, brushing back Amelia's hair. Daniel loves you. He won't care what you're wearing. But Amelia's chest ached. Love was fragile, and appearances mattered, especially here, in front of Daniel's wealthy family. The doors at the back of the church opened. Gasps rippled through the crowd. And then Amelia saw her.
Sophie.
Wearing Amelia's gown. The vintage satin shimmered under the stained glass, pearls glinting like stars. Sophie's raven hair was swept into a perfect chignon, her lips painted a venomous red. She smiled, smirked, walking into the church as though she were the bride. The room fell silent. Whispers spread. Isn't that Amelia's dress? Why is Sophie wearing it? God, she looks stunning. Amelia froze, her nails digging into her palms. Sophie's eyes locked with hers across the church, daring her to react. That smug smile said it all. I win. You lose. Daniel's expression darkened as he noticed the commotion. He rushed to Amelia, confusion clouding his handsome face. Amelia, what is this? Why is Sophie? Amelia's lips trembled. She wanted to scream, to cry, to tear the gown from Sophie's body. But the humiliation paralyzed her. Sophie finally approached, the sound of her heels striking the marble like gunshots. She leaned close, whispering so only Amelia could hear. You really thought you could shine today? That you could be the center of attention? You'll never be me, Amelia. You'll always be second best. The words sliced deeper than knives. Tears burned in Amelia's eyes, but she refused to let Sophie see her break. She turned away, her body trembling, her future shattering before her. The wedding fell apart. Daniel, though supportive, couldn't calm the chaos among the families. Guests murmured disapproval. Amelia's dream crumbled, leaving her humiliated and broken in front of everyone. And in Sophie's eyes, triumph glittered brighter than the pearls on Amelia's stolen gown. A chance encounter. The city had never felt so cruel. Amelia sat in the back of a cab, her hands gripping the cheap ivory cocktail dress that had betrayed her. Her makeup had smeared with tears, her hair undone, her spirit hollow. The driver asked where she was headed, but Amelia only muttered, "Anywhere but here." She couldn't go home. She couldn't face the guests, the whispers, the pitiful stares. And she certainly couldn't face Sophie, who even now was probably basking in her destruction. The cab stopped in front of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, its glittering lights almost mocking her despair. She stumbled out, dragging her small purse, and walked into the grand lobby. She had no plan, just a desperate need to disappear. The marble floors gleamed, chandeliers glittered above, and wealthy elites in evening gowns and tuxedos passed her by without a second glance. She felt like an imposter, a broken doll among diamonds. "Miss, are you all right?" a warm voice asked. Amelia turned. A tall man stood before her, his presence commanding the room. His broad shoulders filled his tailored charcoal suit, his dark hair was swept back with effortless polish, and his eyes, sharp, steel-gray eyes, studied her with unsettling intensity. I'm fine," Amelia stammered, though her voice betrayed the storm inside. The man's gaze lingered on the cocktail dress, the smudged mascara, the trembling hands. He tilted his head, recognizing something more than a stranger's sadness. "Bad night?" he asked gently. Amelia almost laughed at the understatement. "Something like that." The man extended a hand. Alexander Hayes. Her breath hitched. She had heard the name before. Everyone had. Alexander Hayes, the billionaire venture capitalist who had once been Sophie's fiancé. Their engagement had been splashed across magazines 2 years ago, until Sophie broke it off in a scandal involving money and betrayal. And now here he was, standing in front of her as if fate itself had drawn them together. "Amelia Carter," she whispered, her voice small but steady. His brow arched. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Sophie's sister. The air between them thickened. Amelia braced herself for pity or scorn, but Alexander only studied her in silence, as though piecing together a puzzle. "Come," he said finally, gesturing toward the hotel's lounge. "You look like you need a drink." Too numb to resist, Amelia followed. They sat in a quiet corner, where the glow of amber light softened the sharpness of their pain. A glass of red wine appeared before her, whiskey before him. "Tell me," Alexander said, his voice low and steady. "What did Sophie do this time?" Amelia's throat tightened. For the first time that day, she felt seen, not as a humiliated bride, not as the weak sister, but as someone who had endured Sophie's cruelty. She told him everything: the stolen dress, the ruined wedding, the whispers that cut deeper than knives. When she finished, Alexander's jaw clenched, his knuckles white against the glass. "She hasn't changed," he muttered. "Still selfish. Still cruel." Amelia blinked. "She did the same to you, didn't she?" His eyes darkened with memory. "She betrayed me for a quick fortune. I should have seen it coming, but I was blinded." Sophie never wanted love, only power. The truth hung heavy between them. Two victims of Sophie's venom, sitting across from each other like survivors of the same storm. And in that moment, something unspoken shifted in Amelia's chest. She wasn't alone. Billionaire's proposal. The lounge grew quieter as the night stretched on. Amelia and Alexander shared fragments of their lives between sips of wine and whiskey. She spoke of her modest upbringing, her dream of stability, her longing for something real. He revealed glimpses of his empire, his battles in boardrooms, the loneliness of being wanted only for wealth. For the first time since Sophie stole her dress, Amelia laughed, softly, hesitantly. Alexander's gaze lingered on her when she did, as though memorizing the rare sight. But then his expression hardened, resolve replacing tenderness. "Amelia," he said, leaning closer, "I have a proposition." Her heart skipped. "What do you mean?" He placed his glass down, his tone steady but laced with fire. "Marry me." The words crashed into her like thunder. She stared at him, speechless, sure she had misheard. He continued, "Think about it. Sophie destroyed your wedding to humiliate you. Imagine her face when she sees you on my arm. Not just as a rebound. Not as pity, but as my wife." Amelia's lips parted, her mind spinning. You can't be serious." "I'm dead serious," Alexander said, his eyes unflinching. "She craves power, status, control. Nothing would cut deeper than watching her sister, her shadow, take what she lost. And this isn't only about revenge. You deserve better. You deserve respect. I can give you that." Her heart hammered in her chest. The logical part of her screamed, "This is madness." But another part, a wounded, burning part, whispered, "This is justice." "Alexander, I don't even know you," she protested weakly. "Then get to know me," he countered. "We'll have time. But I know this much, you're stronger than you think. And you deserve to reclaim your dignity." Silence stretched between them. Amelia's fingers tightened around her glass, her reflection shimmering in the red wine. Could she do it? Could she step into Sophie's world not as a victim, but as the victor? Her voice trembled when she finally spoke. "If I say yes, this won't just be about Sophie, will it?" For the first time, Alexander's expression softened. "No, it won't." Her pulse raced. She saw it then, not just revenge, but possibility. A chance to rebuild herself beside a man who had also been broken by Sophie's cruelty. She exhaled, the decision forming in her chest like a flame. "All right," she whispered. "I'll marry you." And for the first time in years, Alexander Hayes smiled. A real smile, sharp with triumph, yet softened by something deeper. The deal was struck. The game was about to begin. The public marriage. New York's high society thrived on scandal, and Amelia Carter's marriage to Alexander Hayes was the scandal of the season. Headlines screamed across glossy magazines and online tabloids. Billionaire Alexander Hayes marries unknown woman. From small-town girl to billionaire bride. Who is Amelia Carter? Revenge marriage? Sophie Carter's sister weds her ex-fiancé. The press camped outside Alexander's penthouse, their cameras flashing like fireworks whenever Amelia stepped out. Overnight, she was transformed from a humiliated bride-to-be into a woman draped in designer gowns, walking hand in hand with one of the wealthiest men in America. Their wedding had been swift, private, and breathtaking. Alexander had spared no expense, flying Amelia to Paris for an intimate ceremony beneath the vaulted ceilings of a centuries-old chapel. Her gown, an ivory creation of silk and lace from Dior, flowed around her like liquid moonlight. The pearls Sophie had stolen no longer mattered. Alexander's ring glittered brighter. When the world learned of it, the gossip spread like wildfire. Some whispered admiration. Others sneered at Amelia as a gold digger. Yet every time she walked beside Alexander, his arm protectively around her, she felt a new strength building inside. She was no longer the girl who had been humiliated in a stolen dress. She was Amelia Hayes. Still, beneath the glamour, Amelia's heart wrestled with doubt. Their marriage had begun as an alliance, a union forged in revenge. But when Alexander looked at her with those gray eyes, steady, searching, something deeper stirred. Something real. It was during one of their first public galas that Amelia truly saw the shift in herself. The ballroom glowed with chandeliers, the air humming with laughter and clinking glasses. Amelia entered on Alexander's arm, her emerald gown shimmering as dozens of eyes turned toward them. Whispers rose. She's even lovelier than Sophie. Alexander finally looks happy again. Poor Sophie, losing everything. Amelia lifted her chin, letting the whispers wash over her. She was no longer ashamed. For the first time, she felt she belonged. And somewhere across the ballroom, hidden among the glittering crowd, Sophie watched, her eyes burning with fury. Sister versus wife. The confrontation came sooner than Amelia expected. One evening, as the city glowed with its endless skyline, Amelia returned to the penthouse to find Sophie waiting in the marble foyer. She wore a crimson dress that clung to her curves, her lips curved into a poisonous smile. Well, Sophie purred, her voice dripping with false sweetness. The new Mrs. Hayes. Amelia's stomach twisted, but she forced herself to stand tall. How did you get in here? Darling, I have my ways. Sophie stepped closer, her heels clicking against the floor. I must say, Amelia, you've surprised me. I thought you'd crawl into a hole after your little wedding disaster. But no, you went and married him. Her eyes flicked toward the framed photograph of Amelia and Alexander on their Paris wedding day. Sophie's smile faltered for a moment before she masked it with a laugh. You think this will last? Alexander is mine. He always will be. Amelia's chest tightened, but she held her ground. For years, Sophie had controlled her, belittled her, mocked her, overshadowed her. Not anymore. You're wrong, Amelia said, her voice trembling but firm. You had your chance with Alexander, and you threw it away. You betrayed him. You betrayed me. You don't get to waltz back into our lives and pretend you still matter. Sophie's eyes flashed. You think you've won, little sister? You think wearing pretty dresses and living in his penthouse makes you his equal? You'll always be beneath me. No, Amelia said, her voice steady now. For the first time in my life, I'm standing above you, and I'm not afraid of you anymore. The words hung in the air like a blade. Sophie's smile shattered, replaced by pure venom. At that moment, Alexander walked in, his presence filling the room. His gaze flicked between the two sisters, cold fury in his eyes as he saw Sophie. You're trespassing, he said, his voice like steel. Get out. Sophie's lips curled into a defiant smirk. You'll regret this, Alexander. Both of you. She swept out of the penthouse, the door slamming behind her. Amelia stood frozen, her hands trembling. Alexander came to her side, his hand firm on her shoulder. She won't stop, Amelia whispered. No, Alexander agreed, his gaze hard. But neither will we. And for the first time, Amelia believed him. Love or revenge? Amelia Hayes lay awake in the vast king-sized bed of the penthouse, staring at the glittering Manhattan skyline. The city never slept, and neither did her thoughts. She had married Alexander Hayes, one of the most powerful men in New York, and the world was watching. The tabloids still debated her motives. Was she a romantic underdog who had triumphed against betrayal, or a schemer who had seized her sister's leftovers? But the question gnawed deeper inside her. Was she truly in love with Alexander, or was she only here to punish Sophie? She turned her head and saw him beside her, already awake, scrolling through emails on his phone. His jawline was sharp against the dim light, his gray eyes flicking with focus. When he noticed her watching, he set the phone aside. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked softly. She hesitated. "My mind won't stop racing." "About Sophie?" "About everything." Amelia sat up, hugging her knees. "This marriage, it started as revenge. But now, I don't know. I don't want to be defined by what she did to me. She faltered, unsure of her own words. Alexander studied her for a long moment. Then he shifted closer, his voice low and certain. "I'll tell you what I see. I see a woman who had everything taken from her and refused to break. I see someone stronger than she realizes. And I see someone who deserves more than to live in her sister's shadow." Her breath caught. "And what do you see us as, Alexander? Revenge partners, or something more?" For once, the controlled billionaire's expression softened completely. He reached out, brushing his knuckles along her cheek. "Amelia, you make me feel alive in a way Sophie never could. This isn't about her anymore. Not for me." The words melted something inside her. And when he leaned forward and kissed her, slow, tender, but burning with restrained passion, she felt herself surrender not to revenge, but to something frightening and beautiful, love. But just as Amelia began to let go of her doubts, Sophie struck back. The next morning, headlines exploded with a new scandal. Alexander Hayes' new wife accused of gold-digging scheme. Anonymous source claims Amelia Carter manipulated Hayes into marriage. The article cited leaked text messages, conveniently framing Amelia as a calculating social climber. Her hands shook as she scrolled through the slander. "This is Sophie," she whispered. "She's trying to destroy me in front of the world." Alexander's jaw tightened. "Then we fight back. Together." But Amelia's heart pounded with unease. Sophie wasn't just fighting anymore, she was waging war. Sophie's last move. Sophie Carter had always been a master manipulator, but now she was desperate. Watching her sister on the covers of magazines, basking in the life she believed belonged to her, filled Sophie with a venom that ate at her soul. If Amelia thought she had won, Sophie would prove her wrong. Her plan unfolded with ruthless precision. She bribed a junior executive inside Hayes Ventures, feeding him confidential documents. Then she orchestrated a leak that implicated Amelia in corporate sabotage, emails forged to make it appear Amelia had interfered in Alexander's billion-dollar deal with a European investor. The fallout was immediate. The investor threatened to walk away. Business journalists swarmed the story. And for the first time, Amelia saw doubt flicker in Alexander's eyes. "Did you do this?" he asked, his voice low, unreadable. Amelia's heart shattered. "Alexander, no. I would never." He searched her face, torn between trust and the damning evidence plastered across his desk. The forged emails bore her name, her words. They looked real. Too real. "I want to believe you," he admitted, his voice rough. "But the damage." Tears stung her eyes. "You know me better than this. Sophie is behind it. Can't you see? She's trying to destroy us both." Silence stretched between them, thick with tension. Then Amelia made a choice. She wouldn't sit back and be Sophie's victim again. She marched into Hayes Ventures the next morning and confronted the executives directly, demanding access to the email servers. It was Lila, her loyal friend, who uncovered the truth. The metadata proved the emails had originated from Sophie's address, routed through proxies to frame Amelia. When Alexander saw the proof, relief and rage surged through him. At a press conference that afternoon, he stood before flashing cameras, his arm firmly around Amelia. "The rumors about my wife are false. She has been the victim of a malicious attempt to discredit her and me. The perpetrator is Sophie Carter. Effective immediately, she is banned from any association with myself, my company, or my family." The declaration stunned New York society. For once, Sophie's manipulations had backfired spectacularly. She was exposed, humiliated, and shut out of the world she had clawed so desperately to dominate. Behind the cameras, Sophie seethed, her hands trembling with rage. Her last move had failed, and as she watched Amelia and Alexander walk away together, Sophie realized the truth she had refused to face. She had lost. The wedding rewritten. The crisp autumn air swept across Manhattan, carrying with it a sense of renewal. Amelia stood before the mirror in Alexander's penthouse, dressed once again in white, but this time, not in a cocktail dress born of desperation, nor in a gown stolen by her sister. This was her gown. The silk flowed around her like sunlight caught in fabric, embroidered with gold thread and delicate crystal beads that sparkled with every movement. A veil of sheer tulle cascaded down her back, framing her face in soft radiance. Her chest tightened with a mix of awe and fear. For months, she had been the billionaire's unexpected bride, whispered about in tabloids, questioned by society. But today, she was simply a woman ready to walk down the aisle to the man she had come to love. Alexander entered, looking devastatingly handsome in a black tuxedo. His gray eyes softened when they met hers. "You're breathtaking," he said simply, his voice breaking through her nervousness. She smiled faintly. "Are you sure about this? Another wedding? After everything?" He stepped closer, his hand lifting her chin. "This isn't another wedding, Amelia. This is our wedding. The one you deserved from the start." That afternoon, the ceremony unfolded in the glass atrium of the Hayes Foundation, overlooking the New York skyline. Roses twined along crystal arches, candles glowed against mirrored walls, and the music swelled as Amelia began her walk. Whispers rose among the guests, admiration, not mockery this time. Heads turned to see the bride, radiant and unshaken. And at the end of the aisle stood Alexander, his eyes fixed only on her. But the moment was not without interruption. The doors slammed open. Gasps filled the atrium. Sophie Carter stormed in, her once perfect beauty cracked by bitterness. Her dress, though elegant, seemed gaudy beside Amelia's grace. Her voice sliced through the ceremony. "This is a sham. She doesn't love him. She only married him to spite me." All eyes turned, the room frozen. Amelia's heart hammered, but instead of fear, she felt a calm strength rise inside her. She turned, facing her sister in front of everyone. "You're right about one thing, Sophie. I did marry Alexander after you tried to ruin me. But what you'll never understand is that I found something you never could: love, respect, and a partner who sees me as enough. You stole my dress, but you couldn't steal my future. Not this time." The crowd erupted in applause. Sophie's face twisted, her words drowned in the wave of support for Amelia. Security escorted her out as she screamed protests that no one listened to anymore. And when Amelia turned back to Alexander, he smiled, proud and unshaken. They joined hands, spoke their vows, and sealed them with a kiss that silenced every whisper of doubt. Amelia had finally walked down the aisle, not humiliated, but triumphant. Sisters and shadows. The reception glowed with celebration. Champagne glasses clinked, music soared, and Amelia danced beneath crystal chandeliers, laughter bubbling from her lips. For the first time, she wasn't just surviving, she was living. As the night drew on, she slipped onto the balcony, the city lights stretching endlessly below. Alexander followed, wrapping his jacket around her shoulders. "You were extraordinary today," he murmured. She smiled, her heart swelling. "I was terrified, but I couldn't let her win again." "You didn't just win," he said. "You rose above her. That's the difference." They stood together in silence, the hum of the city beneath them, the future wide open. For Amelia, the journey from betrayal to love had been brutal, but it had forged her into someone stronger. Sophie, meanwhile, was left in the shadows. Her schemes exposed, her reputation shattered, she drifted from society's circles like a fallen star. Alone, consumed by the envy that had always ruled her, she faded from Amelia's life like a ghost. Amelia no longer felt hatred, only pity. As she leaned against Alexander's chest, his arms holding her steady, she whispered, "I thought Sophie stole everything from me. But the truth is, she only cleared the path to where I was meant to be." Alexander kissed her hair. And where is that? She looked up at him, her eyes shining. Right here. With you. The night sky stretched above them, infinite and glittering. And as Amelia Hayes stepped into her new life, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Sophie had stolen her wedding dress. But Amelia had taken something far greater in return: her dignity, her love, and the billionaire ex-fiancé who now belonged only to her.
The end.